India is a country where the license Raj is coming back. The police wants money, the municipal corporation wants money, the shops and establishment inspectors want money. We have not created a situation where investments can come in. The Indian Railways, it's the largest enterprise in India. It employs more than 1 million people. The dedicated freight corridor that was conceived of in 2006, 20 years ago. The government has postponed that project indefinitely. Till today, it's not ready. Politicians like to give away things and show how wonderful they are. It's taxpayers' money, dear politicians. Unemployment grew, production slowed, India remained poor. Hi, this is RN Bhaskar from Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein with his views on policy, occasional business stories, and occasional conversations. Today we discuss policy. We discuss a policy question of whether India is going back to 1990. So what is 1990? For those who may not remember, 1990 was a turning point for India. That was a time when India has no money in its reserves. India had just no money to pay for its imports. It had to mortgage its gold to get emergency money to allow imports. India was in dire straits. But India was lucky. It got a prime minister like P.V. Narasimha Rao, assisted by his finance minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, and together they dismantled the license Raj and opened up the Indian economy and made it prosperous. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the Congress are beneficiaries of that relaxation that both Manmohan Singh and P.V. Narasimha Rao brought in during the 1990s. The crisis is something that Indians should not forget. And the danger today is that India could be slipping back to 1990, where it faces a crisis of unimaginable proportions. Let's just look at the first very indicator. In 1990, the biggest crisis was not being able to pay for the imports. And that is why there's a ratio called import cover that we look at. Look at the chart. The chart will tell you that last year we did not even have 1 year's reserves to pay for our imports. After that, we've improved, but we're still close to the 1 year and we're slipping below 1 year. And the danger is that this year, our import cover may again slip very precipitously. Why? Many reasons. First, our imports are growing. Second, our exports are flagging. Third, we have not created a situation where investments can come in. The only investments you get are portfolio investments which speculate on the stock market and run away as soon as the money is made. That is not what a country wants. But most important, the final straw will be the government's capitulation to the US demand that we stop importing Russian oil. That oil is cheaper than market prices, and that reduced the import bill. Now suddenly your import bill will go up. So your import cover will become more severe, and that is going to hurt India. By itself, that means nothing. There are other contributing factors which make the situation very serious. The first example which I'd like to give is of the Indian Railways. It's the largest enterprise in India. It employs more than 1 million people. It covers the entire country. In any other good country, this kind of department would have been profitable. As the chart will tell you, it is not profitable. It is making losses. And why is it making losses? Well, the simple answer is that we subsidize passenger traffic. And to cross-subsidize, we charge higher prices for freight traffic. Now, this has two implications. One, people don't understand what the real cost of travel is. And two, It makes our exports even less competitive. But there's another problem. Politicians like to give away things and show how wonderful they are. It's taxpayers' money, dear politicians. So, women and children in some states are given free travel. In Maharashtra, certain sections of population are given free travel during Ambedkar Jayanti. When there's a religious festival, you allow free travel once again. Every free travel makes the railways suffer losses. And once you increase free travel for many people, it makes other people demand such concessions for their communities, their festivals, their occasions as well. And that is not all. Go to Bihar, go to UP, travel by train, and you'll find lots of ticketless travelers, and no ticket collector, no ticket checker will dare ask them for tickets. He'll be thrown out. That reflects badly on law and order. But there's another reason why. The most profitable projects for India and for the railways have been postponed. Look at just one example. The dedicated freight corridor that was conceived of in 2006, 20 years ago, by Dr. Manmohan Singh and Shinzo Abe, the then Prime Minister of Japan. And both crafted a policy called the dedicated freight corridor. So that freight traffic, which normally takes 12 days to reach Bombay from Haryana, could reach in 1.5 days. The government has postponed that project indefinitely. Till today, it's not ready. As a result, industry becomes less competitive when it comes to exports. Prices climb up because someone has to pay for the 12 days. And there's one more factor. Instead of building this dedicated freight corridor, the government decided to build the freight corridor from Haryana through UP, Bihar, and then West Bengal. Because it wanted votes from there. It does not have the traffic, the freight traffic that the Western corridor has. But that is political, so you lose more money. To win politics, you destroy the country. But that is not all. There are other issues which hurt. India is a country where the license Raj is coming back. And the license Raj is coming back in other ways. Not licensing of industries, but you've created a huge army of rent seekers. The police wants money, the municipal corporation wants money, the shops and establishment inspectors want money. You try refusing them the money that they demand, and they could make your life miserable. The government said, why don't you complain? Who asked you to give bribes? If you don't give a bribe, you're in trouble. If you give a bribe, you cannot complain, because if you give a bribe and complain, you'll be behind bars for 7 years. You've created laws that nobody dares complain. If your import cover is likely to worsen, do remember that that is directly linked to trade balance. Trade balance is when your exports are less than your imports, you have a negative trade balance. Look at India's chart. The trade balance is worsening. Why is it worsening? Because India has forgotten how to export. India continued pursuing Western markets even when Western markets' population started declining. The finances worsened. They do not have the ability to purchase. They don't have the ability to invest. But your ministers and your bureaucrats keep flying to the West for FTAs, for trade deals. Instead, the largest growing markets are Malaysia, Indonesia, the Eastern world. Instead, when America put tariffs, the first thing India did was go to Peru. Peru is far away. Talk to Sri Lanka, talk to Malaysia, talk to Indonesia, talk to the ASEAN region. This fascination for the white-skinned, this fascination of the Western world is what makes some sectors look at New Zealand also. Why don't you look at the Asian markets? So A, we do not look where the markets are. B, what we do is we've not learned to export even to friendly countries like Russia. Russia has a trade surplus. It's willing to import from India, provided India produces the goods it wants at the right price. Even after decades of doing business with Russia, we have not learned the art. Our exports to Russia are negligible. And the third problem was that India has this phobia about China. So Vietnam, which fought a war against China, still has a border dispute, has a defense deal, has a telecom deal, and imports and exports from China. India does not. India depends on Chinese imports for its exports, APIs for pharmaceuticals, components for electronic exports. But India did not go to China and said, as your labor costs increase, can we get the industries that you cannot operate profitably in your country, like textiles and garments? Can you come to our country and set up joint ventures? We'll be glad to have you. No, we didn't do that. Result? China set up joint ventures in Vietnam, in Philippines, even Bangladesh. India was forgotten. And when China invested in India to create startups, the first unicorns in India came because of Chinese money. India banned Chinese investments. As a result, your trade balance worsened. And that in turn, because you hurt the climate for business by banning one country, by banning one sector, by making things difficult for industry, investments have stopped flowing to India. You did not allow countries to go in for international arbitration. So investments, direct investments in manufacturing in India also declined. FDI declined. And since conditions in India were very bad and the police raj became serious, Indians started investing outside, not in India. With no investments, there were no new companies, no new enterprises, no new jobs. Unemployment grew, production slowed, India remained poor. If India changed its business environment, if India encouraged investments, India could have prospered. Hopefully now, India has now started talking to China, and hopefully some investments will come from China. But the lobby is so strong and so wedded to Western interests that the lobby will not allow this to happen quickly. One hopes the government has the strength to do that. So when trade deficit grows, FDI slows down, employment declines, the automatic consequence is inflation. Yes, the government says no, inflation is under control. Look at the data. CPI inflation is down. Even food inflation is coming down. But let's go beyond government data. Look at one commodity the whole world is looking at. Look at gold. Look at the price of gold and how it's increased in other countries. To make this simple, what we did was we converted gold in dollars into gold in rupees and then looked at the following countries that are there on the chart. That chart will tell you that the maximum price of gold went up in India. That price reflected appreciation of metal, but also included inflation as the currency became weaker. And USA also weakened, because you can see the numbers there. Effectively, what it means is that India became weaker even against a falling dollar. It was a double weakening. The biggest problem that common people face is when the currency weakens. Their purchasing power goes down. My salaries don't increase, prices increase, I have less to purchase, and I become poorer, even though in number terms I'm getting the same salary or even a higher salary. In actuality, I am poorer. which is why India could be heading back to 1990 to face the same financial crisis unless we can, one, create jobs, B, stop dividing people. You cannot have a progressive country where people are divided. 3, you encourage investments. And 4, you make sure that we learn to export. If we don't do that, we are going back to 1990. Not a very good thought. It must not happen. And the government needs to bring in policies to make sure it does not happen. And yes, do tune in to our weekly analysis of news on a News Behind the News program every Saturday morning at 8:15 a.m.